Today we're going to be using this KBRS shower system through this entire custom shower. So I'm going to give you a full start to finish tutorial on how to install this system up to company specifications to make sure that you have a waterproof shower that will last a lifetime. I've got their custom pan because this is an 8-foot shower. Keep in mind that you can get different drain styles with this. Now you can get a linear drain, you can get just your standard OD drain, you can do a flow effects drain, and they can make these pans to fit the drain that you want to use. But for this application, I'll be showing you guys a bonding flange, how to install the pan with their curb and with their wall board. Very first thing I want to go over is let's go over the other materials you're going to need with this system to make it waterproof. You're going to need some of their waterproofing, a little bit of their fabric that'll go on your inside corners and over the seams, polyurethane sealant. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sponge down our slab. If you're working on plywood, I would recommend doing the same thing. Any porous material that you're going to be thin setting to, it's crucial that you wipe it down and dampen it so that it doesn't pull all of the moisture out of the thin set before it bonds to your pan. Let's go ahead and start thin setting our slab. Collapse those ridges. Now, where the seam meets on the pan, we're gonna get our polyurethane sealant. We're gonna put a good coat in between these. Do this at an angle so I don't knock that sealant down. I want it to mash together. So now we are going to set our curb. Gonna get our thin set. There's gonna be a seam on the curb as well. So, same thing with our sealant. Get ourselves a really good coat, a little back and forth wiggle with some pressure, making sure that that polyurethane sealant got a good bite. 35 on the money. I said I was gonna give myself an 1/8 inch of play. Just using a circular saw, very simple. A lot of polyurethane there because you know what? That is where your leaks happen, is at the pan and the curb. And give myself just a little bit right there. That's why I left that 1/8 inch gap, because now I didn't knock all my sealant out when I went to put it together. At this point, we're gonna start our wall boards. The minimum requirement for spacing for your studs is 16 on center. If you have 2 foot on center, you're probably gonna have to throw some blocking in there to meet their specifications. For our first sheet, we gotta figure out where our closest stud is to the size of the sheet. I'm laying these horizontally. So 57 5/8 is gonna be my first seam. And as you work your way up, you want to stagger your seams. We'll go against the pan, in between the vertical seams, the horizontal seams, inside corners. Put the polyurethane sealant in first, mash it down into it, screw it to the wall. Kicking it tight to the studs, and then I'm sliding it straight down onto the bead. And now all we gotta do is screw it to the wall. If you look at the bottom, you can see where the extra polyurethane sealant has protruded out the seam. This is an inside corner trowel. I'm gonna go ahead now and put one more thick bead of sealant in front of that. So right here in the inside corner. And then right here, your vertical seam. And when I'm getting to those inside corners, I'm always leaving at least an 1/8 inch, 3/16, so I have a little space to slide back. Now that that's screwed off, same thing as the last sheet. I'm gonna put a good bead in front of our inside corner. And I like to do the vertical seam as well, because there's a little bit that is mashed out from putting it in between the sheets. And then just your regular 6 inch, 5 inch knife. We're almost there. We have got all of the wall board up, a few key points and takeaways, 6 inch spacing on your screws, no larger than 16 inch on center for your studs, And that's pretty much it, guys. So now we have got to prep all our screw holes. I'll just get my putty knife and I will put a good bead of the sealant on it, just like this. And then we're just gonna fill them all. Now moving on to our next phase, what I wanna do next is I wanna put my niches in. So I've got a 12 by 20 niche, and I'm going to do a separate little soap dish area. Let's cut into this. Let's figure out where our stud is, where each one of our niches are going, and then we'll go ahead and we'll scribe our box on the wall, cut it out clean, and install this niche. I'll show you guys how I go about doing it. Okay, so I found the edge of my stud, and that is exactly right here. And then I'll make sure I'm on that mark I just made for my stud. And then I'm just gonna mark the perimeter where it's gonna slip right in. Okay, so it looks like we're good. Let me show you a couple other things that I'm gonna do right here. For one, this isn't mounted, it's loose, you see? But I've made a mark where I want it already. I've squared it over to the inside of the box. And I will just cheat this a little bit forward so I have a little bit of pitch on that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a bead of sealant right here in the back. Don't go too crazy because these are built almost flush and you don't wanna get too much buildup. Set this in here. Just gonna put myself a little bit on the drywall in the back, give it just that little bit of extra support. And we are perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'll send that screw, put one more at the bottom on either side, and that one is installed. And I'm just flushing these up. I'm gonna go ahead and just put one more little bead of sealant now around the inside corners. This is, again, nothing excessive, just a nice bead. We need to also polyurethane the perimeter of the niche. Just gonna wanna get a good bead. I like to go slow, so if there is any void at all, there's some of that sealant's getting into it. I wanna make sure that the pipe is cut down to the right height for the bonding flange to rest inside of our recessed area. I just wanna make sure it's seated all the way down as far as I can get it dry. And I'm gonna take a tape measure and I'm gonna measure off of where it's gonna be sitting. So on the inside, where it's recessed, and I'm at 2 13/16, so 2 3/4 heavy. And I've got this inside cut tool, and it just goes inside your drill. Measure off the blade, 2 3/4. Cut off, clean off any residue that might be there from my cut. Let's go ahead and prime our pipe. Some contact cement. Just gotta clean this up. The bonding flange is set. We'll let that dry up for a little bit until it gets solid. Let's go ahead and work on to our bench. It's dead level. And since it's sitting on the pan, this wall will get a coat, this wall, obviously the pan. And then we're also gonna put lines on the bench itself. That'll give us some buildup. That'll allow us to rock it a little bit in the thin set until we get it to sit exactly how we want it. So let's go ahead and get this thing out of place. So I'm just gonna throw a little X here, a little X there. That's where we want our thin set. All right, now with our level, let's check everything. About dead level, where it sits. I'm just gonna rock it a little bit. Perfectly plumbed too. And we're maintaining a pitch too. I mean, try and push some of the air out. Make sure that we're bonded. All I'm doing is I'm just pumping a really thick bead, filling in whatever gap might be there, making sure it's full of the sealant. Inside corner tool where I can. Just makes it a lot easier. Okay, so we're on our last part of the install of the KBRS system in this shower, and we are going to work all those inside corners like I've been discussing, and we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. Let me show you guys how to make some outside and inside corners with your fabric tape. First of all, make sure you have a decent set of scissors. So about the width, you want 2 inches a lap. I kind of try and judge about the width on the length, maybe a little bit longer because you can always trim it down. And then what I like to do is I fold it in half as best as possible, and then I'll give it a firm crease. Now this isn't gonna hold that crease, but what it is gonna do is when you open it up, you will see a line where you've creased it. So about the length of the scissors, I'm gonna follow that line right down the center, maybe just a hair longer. When you get into your inside corner, you'll obviously fold that in a corner, and your bottom will lap over itself. So you can see we've got pretty much a perfect lap right there for your inside corner. You'll put your shower seal on. So you'll brush it on the wall, stick this in the corner, put another coat on top. I use just a paintbrush. I prefer a paintbrush. Before I get started, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut all my inside corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I start with my inside corners. Just gonna get a good first little coat on there. Okay, here's a close-up on how you wanna work your inside corner. So where that crease kind of is visible, I just try and poke it right into the corner. Then what you're going to want to do is just lift your flap up and put a coat on your overlap. Just do your best to work out any kind of lines that might be in it. Once that corner's in, you're happy with it, just use your brush to work it as flat as you can. And I'm gonna put in all my inside corners. And then once my inside corners are in, I'm gonna go over top of those with the long band that I have cut. That's just the perimeter, so I'll do a final coat, but I can't walk in here if I do the whole pan right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna work all the seams on the walls, which will only be getting 1 coat. Let's go ahead and work one of our niches. So it's just the same thing as everything else, guys. Put our little fold in there. And then just like the other laps, we're gonna just lift up the one that's lapped. That's gonna be going on top, and just add ourselves a little bit more. Put our other lap over top of it. And then we'll just repeat that process on the bottom with a nice little coat around everything. Started at the bottom. Let me give you guys an up-close example on how I finish these niches off. So it's my second coat. You saw that I put the full piece on either side for the first coat. I mostly do this just to cover up the screws and stuff and give me plenty of coverage over that for bonding around the niche. So what you want to do is get yourself a good coat on the inside where you're going to be putting your anti-fracture membrane. First piece that I want to do is at the bottom that we're going to roll up into our niche, just like this, and then I'm gonna fold the inside in. So I just cut a slit in it so that I could roll it in. And then just like we did on the sides, we're just gonna paint that in. And now we don't have a lip at the bottom at all anymore, and we know any water that goes in is gonna come right out. Next, we've got an outside corner. I'm just gonna put my outside corner in just like this. It's the same cut as your inside corner. Put a little bit on it, roll one end down, one end over. Do the same thing, get it into place. You know, an extra level of protection for you to make sure that if any water gets in there, it's going to come out. Now the inside of this is entirely waterproof out the factory, so you really could get away now and not even throw another inside corner in. So if you want to, just to make sure that your edges are true, and there's nothing gonna get on the side right here at all. You could very well just get yourself another piece on the corner right here that'll overlap that other piece you put in. And you know that your niche is never gonna get water in it. Just repeating the process, and we're working our way from the bottom up. And that's what I love about this anti-fracture. You can put as many coats on it as you feel you need to get yourself to that point where you know that no water is ever gonna get where you don't want it, and it is a very minimal amount of buildup. We're almost there, guys. So I went ahead and did all my inside corners, the horizontals, every seam that was in the joints, and then we did the niches, the bench, the curb, and around the pan. We started at the bottom and worked our way up. So I've got one piece that I have to put right here where that seam was on the pan. Go ahead and get this fabric down. Okay, that fabric's in. We'll go ahead and work the bonding flange now. Very easy, guys, not much to it. Once you know the steps, you'll be able to do this no problem. Just take your time, have some patience, and each one you do will get a little easier. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Got everything done. I do have to put a second coat on the pan. I do have to put a second coat on the bench. The niches have had 2 coats at this point. So just so you guys know, just note, I don't want to be redundant, show you the same thing over and over. When you're putting a second coat, it's just that. So just remember niches, pan, curb, bench, 2 coats of liquid waterproofing, and you're good to go. We went through everything else thoroughly. If I missed anything, hey, feel free to hit me in the comments. I respond to anybody. Have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask. If you guys like the video, drop me a like, subscribe if you like. I do a bunch of this different kinds of tutorials, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.